Well, that didn't seem like hardly 2 minutes, did it? I'm still trying to get set up back here, and that thing, it said 2-minute timer, but it didn't last that long. So, how's everybody doing today? As you can see, Lee's not here yet. He said he would be home in about 15 minutes from work. He works around a shifting schedule there, so we got to deal with what we got to deal with sometimes. But at any rate, so I did a live a little while ago. I went out and grabbed that swarm trap, and it was not very large at all. Very tiny, actually. So I just basically merged it with the queenless colony, and we'll see what happens. So what can you do? I didn't want to open the box up there, and guy was standing right there and everything, so I didn't want him to get stung, really. So I just wanted to get up out of there and get back to the house as quick as I could. But Lee will be joining us in about 15 minutes as per his message there. And let me see what else. Today I went around this morning, done a lot of weed eating and stuff around the apiary. Starting to equalize my stronger colonies with some of the smaller nukes that I've made to try to give them some bee power to hopefully boost them up to where they can at least fill out that single deep box and get things headed in the right direction there. So who all we got here? Let me see. I saw Mike Tengway. We've got the Morris Homestead. We got Shane, formerly known as Ziggy's Bees. Catherine, Tritone, Jim Hamby. Good to see you. Robert Southern Jr., Richard Briner Jr., Rex Lancaster. Rex, by the way, thanks for your order last week. Larry, good to see you. I saw your family, your photos there. I think it was with your mother. Great photos. Let me see here. James Knoll, good to see you. Steve, Daisy's Honey, good to see you. Lagrange, Randy Klingen, good to see you. Dean Godel, good to see you. So, guys, it's just that time of the year. I've got some honey I still need to pull. I'm trying to weigh it out because I waited a lot longer to pull all my honey, the rest of my honey off. I am ahead of my harvest from last year, but, that could just be a timing thing. I don't know, to be honest with you, just dealing with 5-gallon bucket. I mean, that's going to be very regional. I've seen it anywhere from $129, depending on the honey, all the way up to like $235. I've seen, numbers all over the place. There's really not a rhyme or reason to it, I don't think. I'm looking at going back up to Pennsylvania here in short order because I'm gonna need some honey. I'm selling more honey than the demand is greater than the supply, so to speak. So I need honey that I can cream because the creamed honey is literally blowing off the shelf. Randy says he gets $2.50 a bucket. That's a little bit higher than what I'm seeing down here. So it just depends, on the different honeys. I've seen more, I've seen less. Just depends. But what I am going to do, since I am flying solo so far tonight, and Lee has not made it there yet, I'm going to go ahead and drop the link for you guys to jump on here and give a little bit of assistance with the chat tonight if you guys want to, and jump in here and Yeah, $99 to ship. I looked. I was gonna buy some buckets from Pennsylvania, and they were cheap, 129 bucks, but it was $100 to ship. So it was like, Christ. It's just crazy. Yep, sold by the pound. It's worth a lot more. But it depends where you're selling it at too, because I think Larry doesn't. I don't know what he gets it by for the pound down there. So here, 10 to 12 bucks is about all you're going to get for a pound. Unless it's creamed honey, then you're going to get more. I wish I knew somebody that was up in Pennsylvania coming this way, and I could meet them somewhere. But if I go, it's going to be another 9 hours each way. You know, it's one of those deals. I'm just having to drive all over the place, but it's cheaper than shipping it at $100 a bucket to get it down here, you know? So I don't know. We'll see. Let me see. Yeah, it was like $100 to ship. Yeah, see, that's cheaper than what I sell it for. I sell it 15 a pint, and 1 gallon equals $45. What? That's $12. No, it's 12 pounds to the gallon, right? You mean $144, $145. Yeah, that's it. So the time is the worst part about it. So if I drive up there to get it, I have to discount that. Yeah, the guy in York, what's he selling it for though? I bet you it's not 129 bucks. $129 a 5-gallon pail of light amber honey. If he's going to give it to me for $129 a bucket, $15 to $20 a pound. Yeah, that's probably about correct. Oh, here comes Charlie. Hey, Charlie.
Hey.
Good to see you, sir. Looks like you just got done with dinner.
Yeah, I just got back from getting something to eat. So,
yeah, I might be coming back up there, man. I got a text today that the guy that I was going to get honey from, he's not getting an answer back. I would love to be able to drive up to York and pick up honey. That's, you know, even if it's a little bit more than the 129 bucks, it would be, I mean, I'm looking, if I go to Pennsylvania, I'm buying 20 buckets, you know, or some 55-gallon drums. That's what's going to happen. The only thing is, if I get the 55-gallon drums, then it's the whole having to make sure it doesn't crystallize in the drum. Either that, or it might be the drum with the removable band, right? And then you can just scoop it if it crystallizes.
No, you don't have a drum blanket and all that stuff.
No, I don't have that. But it would be easier to move 4 or a couple barrels and, well, maybe not. Maybe
not
20 buckets.
You don't have enough to lift with.
Yeah, $200 plus. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let me see. 3.5-gallon bucket costs $144. Yeah, I can go up there by you, Charlie, and buy light amber honey for $129 a bucket.
Where at it, Gamber?
Yeah, Dutch Gold.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. But I mean, so if I'm getting 20 buckets, it makes it worth it to drive up there to get it at the lower price, because it's not going to cost me $80 a bucket in time and gas to go get it, right? So even if it was
How many
200,
are you going to get? 20?
probably, well, if I come up there, it'd be 20 to 25 buckets. Whatever my pickup truck will hold in the back is what will be coming back down with me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 1,200 pounds.
You got to order that.
Yeah, I would call them ahead of time and find out when it'd be ready, and then come and get it, right?
Yeah, because what it is you order it, you go in the office, you pay for it, and then you back up to loading dock, and the door raises up, and they come out with a pallet, set the pallet on there, and
off you go.
You load it.
So, yeah, that would be the idea. Hola, mi amigo.
There he is. He's got 1,000 pounds of honey. He could probably smuggle it across
the border.
Yeah, no.
You mean you could put a bucket of honey in your car and you couldn't bring it across the border?
I don't think so. It might look a bit suspicious in that tiny car.
In what way?
I don't know.
Dundee, New York.
Back with the barrels stacked together.
Well, that's the thing, right? So trust me, I don't want to have to drive it to do that.
Oh God!
But,
speaking of driving,
we're going to come up for EAS.
Maybe, possibly.
On Wednesday, I had to do like bee work because like it was going to rain all weekend. So I went to get some queen excluders, and I decided to grab 2 queens on the way. It took me 5 hours to drive because of Montreal. Like to go, I asked to end my day of work at noon. So going took about an hour and 15 minutes. Coming back took over 2 hours. And then I did my emergency splits because I couldn't do them on the weekend. And they tried to kill one of the queens. So I ended up moving her. They attacked her again. So like she was really weak. So I decided to like direct release on a third. And I saw them feed the weak queen. So like
the front door thing is kind of, I don't know. That's the question, right? So it's going to taste like creamed honey is what it's going to taste like. So my honey will get bottled and sold as runny honey. That honey will get creamed and sold for $20 a pound.
That's a plan.
That's the plan. The thing is that when I went to the show this weekend, the car show that had a few vendors, I ended up selling about $490 worth of honey. The majority of was creamed honey. So, and then to give you an example, Saturday, I sold $360 worth of honey. I didn't even put my table out because I was getting ready for the show the next day. And a lady showed up, a fellow beekeeper, and her hives didn't make any honey at all. And I asked her, well, what'd she think the problem was? She says, well, I didn't feed them at all over winter. So you know what that means here? The size just dwindles and dwindles and dwindles down. So you have to feed them in the fall to get her to lay that thing slap up to make that cluster as big as possible. So when she comes through winter, that she's got some workforce to work with. And if you don't, they just dwindle down to this little softball size, and they can't build up fast enough in the spring to get the numbers, right? Or you're not working them and equalizing and all that.
Bottom line of it is beekeeper error. He doesn't know how to keep bees yet.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was definitely, and we've all done it, man. And we've all had that error, right? But she's like,
well, the thing of it is, like, you build them up for the winter time, you feed them, and down in your area where you really don't have a harsh winter,
they just
you have to understand how to keep the bees differently down there.
Right. Well, it's so she bought, and I gave a discount. I'm guilty. So she's a beekeeper. She bought 32. Well, she wanted 32 1-pounders. So I sold her 32 1-pounders. but I only charged her for 30. So she got 2 for free. So it was a little bit, but with that being said, the price was still $10 a pound. So she got it a little bit less being a fellow beekeeper, but not like crazy less, right? So, and I just explained to her, I said, look, this is my income. This is for the whole, this is what I do. This is the money that I make right now. So I understand you're in a problem. However, I can't help your problem by creating one for me. So,
well, when are you planning to come north?
well, I haven't talked to the boss in there about it yet, but it's going to have to be soon because
I mean, EAS is, what is it, August or something?
yeah, I would have to come back in August too. I mean, if I go to EAS,
you'll probably get another truckload.
Probably, well, maybe if everything keeps going the way it's going.
I would wire right here. You know, if you're doing more shows, you're going to be selling a lot more.
I mean, that was just on a whim too. So it's like, if I pushed it, I could far surpass.
Well, another thing is, like Brad or somebody said, you're not going to do that every time, but hopefully more than that.
Well, again, it's what I'm using to cream, right? So the creamed honey with the flavoring and everything, you know.
And that circumstance, it should work fine.
So, and I mean, 129 bucks. I mean,
that's cheap.
That's
what is it? $3 a buck? 3 6s or 18.
They say it's 60 pounds. I don't know. They're probably pretty accurate with their inventory.
Oh yeah, it's 60 pounds.
So, I mean,
they got it. You know, regular. I
that's
mean,
$2 and some change a pound. I mean, it's basically $2 a pound, right? So 129 divided by 60.
We got
$2.15 a pound. And I put in my address for shipping to see how much it would cost. They're talking about $100 a 5-gallon drum to send it. And I was like, oh no. Nope. I mean, yep, it would be 1,200 mile round trip. It'd cost me $300 in fuel. But that's $300 divided by 60 buckets. Or 20 buckets, right? So
yeah, considering it's the price of mailing 3 buckets, it's worth it.
And I usually get better mileage by the when I have weight in the back. So that's unusual, but maybe it's because of the trajectory of the truck changes, the aerodynamics.
$15 a bucket for gas.
So 100.
So if you got
$145 a bucket. The cheapest I found around here was $180 a bucket, and I was going to buy 10 of those, and that would have been $1,800.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's I don't know. It's one of those things.
20. Can you get 20 buckets in your truck? You got extended cab.
Well, I got a crew cab, right? So,
well, that's all right. You don't have an 8-foot bed, do you?
Well, when I went up there to Charlotte to get buckets of syrup, I would get 20 to 25 in the back without stacking them up double, right? If I double it up, I mean, it's not a weight issue. It's a volume issue, right? But
well, the thing with that is, if you're going to do that, then I'd have to put sideboards on because,
well,
for stability of those buckets.
Moving over.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had a tote of syrup and 20 nukes in the back of that thing this year.
It's not the weight,
by
no means. What I'm getting at is if you stack them, you You need a set of racks up on the side, some homemade racks or whatever.
Or at least strap them down.
Well, if they put them on
racks, and then I would have the straps on top of all that.
What if they were on a pallet? Then I could shrink wrap the pallet, right? Shrink wrap them real good.
I wouldn't trust that. Yeah, you can put it on a pallet, but I'd want them. I would have had to have them strapped down with something, some kind of strapping of some sort.
Yeah, you don't want your honey on their highway.
So that'll be a thing. So we'll see how it goes.
Or do you have a small trailer?
I don't have a trailer.
You don't need a trailer. I'm just
thinking,
thinking
my bed.
If you could make a 2-piece for weight wise.
I'll have to measure how tall a bucket. You're talking about just for sliding off of one bucket into another bucket type of deal.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is I'm thinking to myself, if you're doing buckets like that,
if I could, well, the other option,
if you could make a rack, if you're handy enough to make a rack where, let's say, a 2x8 and a 2x8, and you make it so wide where the bucket fits down there and supports that bucket this way, and then stack your buckets right straight across and do it that way.
So
you could do it that way, type of thing. Depends on how often you're going to do all this.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is figuring that out, right? Well, I mean, hopefully
there's no other honey producers in your area. Any major producers?
They all want $230, $240 a bucket. I can't pay an extra $100 a bucket. That doesn't make any sense.
No,
that'd be $2,000 extra. By the time you get 25 buckets, 2,500 extra actually.
I don't know where you'd find fall queens at right now, Larry.
Come to my place, Larry. You can get. I got some extra queens and nukes out there. I've got. Yeah, maybe a cap for the truck. But then if you got it up in there, well, I mean, a camper top like the old shell might work, but.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at, I'm looking at supporting the buckets. You don't want the buckets flopping around. So, if you made like that, like Lee's stand right there, only make it out of 1.5 inch material. It really don't even need to be that. If you make it out of 1x material.
Keith's got a lot of honey. I could go up there and buy it from him if you give it to me for $150 a 5-gallon bucket, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Just make a rack. You could do it a couple different ways. You could either take a piece of 4x8 sheet of plywood and cut.
I got a fella up in Maryland that's got a sawmill that's not far from there. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's the thing. It's like, it's just one of those things that now I'm getting the business where it's more than what I can produce. Even though I'm producing more than I've ever produced, it's still
you never can keep up.
I'm outselling it. They do sell it in totes. They sell the honey in totes. But you would have to immediately come and drain it out of the tote, kind of like my syrup, right into buckets. I would have to drain it into buckets once I got it home.
That'd be a son of a bitch.
And that's 3,000 pounds in a tote. So, about 3,000 pounds in a tote, right? So it's not much difference in doing that or in the buckets.
Better off with the buckets, but you need to make You need to make a frame up.
And the key is that honey that I've gotten in the past to do this with is much darker than what my honey is in the jars, right? My honey comes light amber. And so that's kind of,
they're more like mid darkness or go.
yeah. So that's kind of what I'm going
Well,
after.
when you flavor honey, doesn't it change the color?
Well, when you cream it, it's going to change it, right?
That's
Little
what
bit lighter,
that's what I'm talking about, creaming it.
a little bit lighter. But if you've
Now,
got really light honey,
does the color of the honey give the creamed honey a different type of color?
Yes, to an extent, it does.
yeah, Doug says just get a cargo net. Just a cargo net to go over top of it.
A net and straps I would do at the very minimum.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of decisions. Unfortunately, the cash flow doesn't always keep up with the with the product demand, right? So it's
What is it?
the cash flow. The cash always follows after, right? You have to put out cash to get cash back, to put out cash to get cash back.
Called capital.
Yeah, the capital. So it's kind of crazy, but it's gonna be interesting to see.
Well, all I'm saying is if you can make a grid and it, you can be like 1x2s. You got pieces going across. Do you have what do you call it? A bed liner?
Well, I've got the non-skid, the liner.
You have a spray-in liner.
Yeah, the spray-in liner.
There's a suggestion here from 2B Brett's Honey you might want to look at.
The what?
Which one? Bob, all you need is a truck cargo bar to lock the pails in. Oh, I'm talking about a load lock.
That would work. That would be helpful.
So
all I'm saying is if you had boards going across from edge to edge and then having fern strips or something where you're going this way, making like a checkerboard, like a checkerboard chessboard, and wherever the square is, of course you have all this measured out. You can plop your damn buckets right in there and they are all going to sit there riding solid.
So yeah, it's I mean, I sold, I can't say pounds, but if you just add up the honey, if it were by the pound, 300, not 300, 76, and we'll basically say 490 or 49 and 76. So almost 100 pounds this weekend. It's 2 buckets, right?
A little bit less.
A little bit less than 2 buckets. And as far as liquid honey, I've got a lot jarred up. I don't have a lot of excess or a lot of extra for creamed honey, but I've sold all my creamed honey pretty much. I mean, I probably, it's definitely an issue. And we haven't even really got to where the end of where I would normally make sure all my honey is
like David Lewis, see there when you hit the damn brakes. It's just like me. I got home with 4 buckets of honey in my van, and they were between the 2 seats because I wanted them supported this way and this way because it filled the void, the hole.
Right.
And I come down the drive. Of course, everybody's right on your damn tail, and I'm trying to wheel into my driveway a little bit faster than what it should be. And I pushed on the brakes a little bit, and here one of the buckets tipped over a little bit. I mean, it didn't, the seal.
Well, I can always put some in the cab in the back floorboard too, right? I could line them up there. But
What I'm driving at is that's where that grid comes in. It's supported on all directions, and it wouldn't take much to build it.
to keep them from just moving to the side, but they'll lock into
Side
the
to side, forwards, backwards, sideways, catty corner. All you're
I didn't
doing
have
is
any
making-
problem with them really moving front and back because it was from the front of the bed to the back of the bed. I mean, they were locked in tight, lid to lid, right? They weren't moving that way.
Right.
But when you add that second level on there, then you might have an issue with them moving. So I don't know. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, but I would have to do some dynamic measuring to
you take the buckets out there and you lay them out.
I've got enough buckets I can figure out how many will go. But
what I'm getting at is you take them, how many buckets crossed here, and then the next row you got your wheel wells in there, so you're not going to get as many buckets there. You're going to lose a bucket maybe.
I usually can get 5 and then 4, then 5, then 4, then 5, right? Something like that. So it's like 22 or something like that, 22, 24. At least that was in the F-150, because when I had the 250, then I went to totes of syrup.
The problem of it is you have a 6-foot bed and not an 8-foot bed.
Yeah, I have to measure it out and see.
You got to measure it out with your buckets. Lay it out with your buckets to get an idea how many you can fit sitting on the floor. And
Can you imagine driving 600 miles with a tote of honey in the back? Could you imagine having to drain that tote of honey with 75 beehives? 75 beehives around? It would be like insanity.
You do it in the evening with a red light.
Yeah, I have to be doing it in the dark, right?
Speaking of cream honey, do people like your non-flavored creamed honey, or did you?
I really haven't even. I've only got a little bit of my plain creamed honey out there. Well, I only did a little bit of plain creamed honey. So when I went to the show, I didn't even. I had it in my cooler, but it wasn't even on the table, right? But the fruit flavors down here, crazy. Lemon, blueberry, and strawberry, done. Snickers, done. It was crazy. And they're not buying it wasn't like they were just buying one jar. Some people did buy one jar and then like 1 pound of regular and a jar of creamed honey, right? Some people did that. But I had people buying 6 and 7 jars of creamed honey. Just like one of everything.
Nice.
So it was kind of crazy. But my creamer shipped out yesterday. So it should be down here in the next whenever. Probably if I went to Pennsylvania to get honey, it would show up when I was in Pennsylvania. That's usually how those things work. But
well, you can always plan a road trip with your wife. Like make it fun, at least if you're gonna travel 9 hours. Make it fun. Pick up the honey.
Well, that's what we did when we went up there last time, right? We just went up, hung out with Charlie for the evening, went to the
crab place. Went to Lloyd's up there at the packing thing. And
come back down. I got one guy up here that says he wants to trade 5-gallon buckets of honey for equipment. And then I messaged him, well, I'll trade you cash for the honey, and then you can trade the cash for equipment. That works too. But he never got back to me on it. So if I've got to go spend $3,000, I might as well get the most I can get for my $3,000, which would be driving up there because nobody's going to give you that, or down to Florida. That's the only 2 options right now that I see. Now, maybe if I was getting barrels and they put 4 barrels on a pallet or something like that, or 5 barrels, I don't know how they do it, then the shipping might work out better. It might work out to about the same as driving up there. Steve, you talking to me? I'm buying freeze-dried fruit, powdered. It's freeze-dried fruit, but that it's already been powdered. It doesn't need powdering. So that's really all I'm doing is once I cream the honey, I'm putting the powder in and then letting the moisture of the honey reconstitute the flavoring. So not adding any sugar or anything to it. So I've got a little bit of flow left. We already had our dearth, and now we're having a little bit thing. No, we don't have any haspberries down here. I wish I could find them, but nobody would know what it is. What if I told them? Down here, I did see some nice pineapple flavoring.
Leah, she wants.
I also saw lime, so you could make like a key lime, right? Like a lime and graham cracker. Make a key lime creamed honey. It'd probably go well. So
yeah, and I couldn't make a video when I did all of this.
I do, Jesse. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
I couldn't make a video because I was in a hurry because of the traffic. I had to battle like sunset. So unfortunately, I won't be able to make a video. And the queen getting rejected twice too. Like she was accepted after the third nuke, but she was in bad shape. So I hope she survived.
Are you talking about where they tried to ball her or something?
Yeah, they tried to ball her once. Like I picked her up. Once in the cage, like all the attendants were dead. So I moved her to another nuke, gave the rejection a salve. She got like rejected and again, and she was like barely moving. So I like.
Are you talking where they're stinging her through the cage or something?
Yeah. So I went, what the heck? She's gonna like if it fails again, she's gonna die anyway. So I tried direct release on the third try, and they accepted her, but she was. It was encouraging because they were feeding her. Like you could see the queen like lifting her head, accepting food.
They'll nurse her back probably.
So I don't know if she'll be alive when I come back. When I go back.
How long were these hives queenless?
I made the nukes. It was all within a day.
A day?
So less than 24 hours. I mean,
you didn't leave them for at least 4 or 5 days?
No.
That's your problem right there.
Probably. I should have waited.
No, probably. You got a bunch of bees there that still remember the original queen that you pulled these frames out of. You need to let that hive set, that split.
I didn't have time, Charlie. Rain was coming for 4 days. And
well,
I can't have it. Huh?
That'd have been perfect for the timing of making the nukes and letting them wait 4 days, 5 days, and then add the queen. But you had the queens, right?
Yeah.
So.
What do you have, a long distance to where your yard is, or?
Yeah, it's about 30 minutes for the first one, and like. Well, it depends on the weather.
Because it's go to Montreal to get queens or something.
I went to south shore of Montreal, past the island, and to get some queen excluders. That was the only spot they had some at reasonable price. So that was an hour and 15 minutes to go, but about 2.5 hours to come back. So it was the evening when I managed to reach my apiary with the nukes ready. And like it was over 100 Fahrenheit for sure.
DC, so, Bob doesn't have a forklift, and Bob doesn't have a hot blanket. It's worth probably $1,000 for that.
Yeah, well, the thing that you like, Lyson has one that you put down into the barrel.
Yeah, the potato mash.
But that's still $800.
That's $800. $1,200, $1,500 for a blanket, and then you got to have a pump,
You got to get it
And
off the
it's
truck.
on and on and on and on, and it's like the buckets are make more sense. Buckets you can put in a hot box, get them warmed up, then put them in your
See what Brad says?
bottling tank or whatever you're going to use to bottle.
Brad says, do not get barrels or totes. Yeah, I'd have to be able to get it off the truck. I'd have to rent a forklift to get it off the truck, and then.
Well, now Brad ships buckets and takes him to his packer. So does he have a grid system in the back of his truck to?
He does 600 pounds at a time, right? So that's 10 pails.
I understand that, but how is he securing them in the back of the truck?
I don't know. Maybe he'll join us.
Unless it's somehow strapped down with a forklift. I'm sure he's using a forklift and pallet system.
Well, I know when I went and got syrup,
but he can't lift.
I never had any problem with them falling over in the back.
Yeah, if you don't stack them, it should be fine if they're tight enough together.
Larry said,
ratchet strap them. Good.
Larry, how much do you sell your buckets for? Maybe it's closer to drive to Larry Gandy if he's got honey that looks like this. Not that I need it to really look like this if I'm creaming it, but it's closer to what I do.
Where's Larry?
Yeah, you can move them once they're on something solid, but getting them off my truck and getting them into the building, that's a whole nother thing, right?
That's called a forklift.
Yeah, he says he uses a load bar to hold the pails. Well, that's a whole nother thing, right? So I have an issue. I've got lots of issues, but the main issue with trucks coming in and out of here is that my soil is sandy. So pallet jacks and stuff like that won't roll, right? I don't have
only good for cement. Period.
I don't have cement driveways. And Bob has room in his parking lot for tractor trailers to back into his dock, and then he can forklift.
And then he has forklifts. And if he has barrels, he has a barrel grabber, and he raises it up and takes it in and all that stuff.
Yeah, so if I had a building where I was doing all this like Bob, then I could probably do something like that. But Bob is doing millions of pounds where I'm doing hundreds of pounds, right? Or
well, now how far is Bob away?
3.5 hours, but he charges $275 a bucket.
Okay.
So $275 a bucket, that's double, right?
Yeah, not worth it. It's more than double.
But like Doug said, if he could get $3 a pound, Doug Longman, he would sell it all, right? $3-4 a pound, he'd sell it all at that price, US.
Well, maybe he could take and put a pipe across the border, and you can go over there. And
the honey pipeline. We'll just start a honey pipeline.
I had that back in Prohibition days for beer.
We'll put it right in the middle of Alex there and Doug, right? They would just come and dump all their honey into it, and it would come straight down. And then we'd have another place where Robert could dump all his in, and it would mix on the way down. And that way keep it from crystallizing in the pipeline. I can give you a link to exactly what I bought if you're interested here. Let's see.
Drain the Swamp 225. Nope.
Well, hey, Brad.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
So we're trying to overcome issues, as you can tell.
Oh, I've been watching. I'm just filling my face is all.
What the hell?
I made the most delicious pot of chili ever.
I almost thought you had a meeting or something tonight.
Well, I hope not, because if I do, I'm late.
You missed it.
and not going to be there at all, likely.
Where is let's see. Here you go. This is the strawberry that I've been using.
Don't give your secrets away now.
Well, everybody's in different areas. The blueberry is different than that one.
Let me put stuff away.
This is. Oh, what happened? There we go. This is the blueberry. And let me get you the lemon. And this one I'm dropping now is lemon. Now, I'm not sparing with it. I use it pretty readily in my mix because I just flavor it to the way I like it, the taste of it, and that's what I do. I don't have a special recipe because I find that every batch of honey that I pull is a slightly different flavor, which means I have to change the recipe for the creamed honey because the creamed honey is going to have a different flavor profile. So I add to my taste, and
basically add some more until it tastes good.
Yeah. Well, Larry, the thing is that I also have to calculate how much it's going to cost me to go get it, right? So if the end result is cheaper to go closer because I'm not paying as much in fuel to go get it, then that's also a thing. So Doug said, see any of our bees going by you today, Brad?
Of your bees, yeah, it could have been. Oh, is it windy? It could have blown all your bees this way.
But so yeah, it's kind of been the thing today. And I'm not going to give your secret away because I don't know if you're just saving it for the vlog on your 25% increase in your apiary that we talked about earlier. Yeah.
See, I have a hard time keeping up with what has already come out in the vlog and what's happened since.
Right. Well, this was yesterday. You found that, right? So it wouldn't have been in the vlog yet.
Oh, no, it hasn't been in the vlog yet. Yeah, well, I'll talk about that. It's funny in a really good way too. So my wintering survival numbers increased by 25% a couple days ago. So that's pretty good, isn't it?
Yep.
Actually, it increased by 30% when you think about it.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
It depends on what you're talking about. It's 25 or 30% of. So when I had my dismal day of pulling all my bees out of the barn, and most of them were dead, there pretty much amounted to 3 left that survived and are actually okay right now. Well, I was on the weekend trying to gather up all my equipment to go and put all of my nukes that I had gotten into 10 frame equipment, into this stuff you see right here. And so I was scrounging lids and feed plugs and foamies and all kinds of stuff. And so I was pillaging all of the dead out equipment that I had brought into the apiary. It was quite in disarray. It was not very well organized, but it was just kind of all there in the same area. And I saw this box. It happened to be one of the Paradise polystyrene boxes and had a brick on top, which poly boxes generally have because the lids will blow off if they don't. And I was looking for feed plugs. So I looked at that brick and I thought, I bet you there's a feed plug under that brick. Well, I took the brick off. There was no feed plug, but it was full of bees. Someone, oh no, it's full of bees. And so I looked under the lid just a little bit, and holy cow, is it ever full of bees? It's a big booming 6-frame nuke. So I need to get that out of there so it doesn't swarm. So
it's the miracle nuke.
I gained another nuke on the weekend that I didn't know I had. I can't remember exactly the story, but I think that's one of the ones that was sitting by the bee barn. I was testing those plastic jar lids that fella dropped off here, and so there was a polystyrene there. But I was certain the cold nights we had, I was certain that one had succumbed to the cold. Maybe not, and maybe that's a testament to these polystyrene boxes. Still, darn it all anyway. I hate those boxes, but the bees do so well in them. So yeah, so that increased my apiary size by 30%, sorta.
Well, the survival bees by 30%.
The overwintered, leftover overwintered colonies. Yeah, yeah, it is a nice surprise.
And they were doing well. They rebounded.
Yeah, they're doing great. I'm surprised. Like they may have swarm cells or something. I need to get into it. I couldn't even really do anything with them. The front of the hive is pushed right up against another box. There's only about that much space. So I can't even really see the entrance. And the weather's been so terrible, I couldn't really dig in. So tomorrow's supposed to be nicer. I have some work to do in the apiary, so I'm going to check that out. And I might end up just doing the whole 3 feet a day deal. I'll do that because I have my wagon there, that blue wagon I use. I'm going to bring that wagon over. I'll just set the polystyrene hive in the wagon, and I'll just move the wagon 3 feet every day.
So you got it where you
I want it. Yeah.
That's
I might have been able to do it today almost because it was kind of rainy and not very warm. So I might have been able to move it successfully today, but we'll do that. That'll work out.
let me see.
And watch who was saying, oh yeah, Bob. I was telling Bob and says, you know what? You got to track that hive because that sucker's going to make you 200 pounds of honey.
I bet you it does. Really do.
That'll be fun if it turns out to be a real success story like that.
Well,
and I think I should graft off of that one because she sure pulled it out of the.
I didn't do a very good job of tracking which ones were my first year nukes, other than the queen, right? The ones that got marked that I could find that I marked. I could tell the difference in the ones that I grafted from last year because they all have red marks, and the ones from this year may or may not have a green mark on them if I could find them in the mix. And I'll tell you what, that comeback story, the ground zero colony is still my biggest, strongest colony. But some of my red queens that I grafted, they're doing pretty good. I mean, I went out to one today, and they're every bit, well, I'll say 2.5 deeps, or 2.5, because there's 3 deep boxes on it. But because I put the queen excluder in there, when I was doing some equalization, I checked them today, and man, those top 2 boxes are pretty heavy with honey now. I mean, I just haven't pulled them off yet, right? They still haven't, like a lot of them, they're heavy, but they haven't finished capping them all. Not that that's a requirement for me, because I could do the shake test, and pretty much if they started to cap the top of it, they're like half capped, like from the top of the frame down about halfway. And probably just because they were waiting on brood to hatch out when I moved it. And I mean, I know they've got at least 1.5 deep of honey on them right now, solid. And I could pull, and there's frames of honey in the bottom, right? In the brood box, the outer frames are honeyed up. So I went through and did some equalization today. And matter of fact, I'll ask Charlie when he gets back, even though he doesn't typically run deeps, to see what he thinks, because we were discussing that, just pulling brood and moving whole frames over, and the effect that it has on the colony once you've made the transfer. Because I really haven't done much of that in the past, just pulling frames and dropping it in other colonies. But I did it today, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
So talking about second deep, since it's a bit of a stretch, but a segue is, I'm considering doing something I haven't done in a long time, but I was successful at it. Is I'm considering trying to winter quite a number of colonies outdoors.
Oh, okay.
And I would likely winter them as doubles, because that's more common than singles here. Singles is not impossible. However, you just have to watch the feed stores a lot more closely. So, I'd really like to get my building back in the winter season. So I think wintering outdoors really would benefit me in a big way in that regard.
Right.
So that might be something
a lot of blankets,
new. and not only that, but wintering, this is one of my outyards right here in the picture. Winter them in the outyard. Don't move them around. Just wrap them up and say goodnight. Right? Just winter them right there. That would help me out an awful lot to not have to move the bees around.
Hey, Doug.
Hey, Doug.
Speaking of wintering outdoors, right on cue.
I'll have
Doug.
to learn a few things from Doug about wintering outdoors.
You got a good yard, that sheltered one there, Brad.
Well, this one is a little more open, but it's closed to the north, so I think it would at least get really good snowpack right here. That new yard is very sheltered, and I think there'd be a lot of snow there, so I think that'd be a good yard.
Yeah.
Yeah, both my yards are pretty protected. Like the first one you've seen, it's protected on 3 sides. The new one is protected on the north and west side, I think. I think it's north and west.
So, Doug, remind me, are most of your colonies outdoor wintered? Are they doubles generally?
Ours, yeah, other than the 1 yard I've been playing with a styrofoam. But
right,
what I've found with the singles, Brad, they come through the winter all right, but it's the spring that gets you. You got to get the feed on them early in the spring, because as soon as they start building up, they're out of feed.
So if it's a double, are they able to go down and access the feed that they didn't access in the winter?
Yeah, we find on our doubles hardly any of the honey in a second box is used.
In the second box, in the top box?
No, well, one or the other. They usually winter up in the top,
okay.
So the bottom's usually full.
The 1 year I did winter outdoors, I noticed that almost without exception, the bottom box is right full of feed in the spring.
Yeah.
But you still want it there for contingency, I'm sure. I know a lot of people do winter singles outdoors, but that's exactly what it is. You just got to really watch it.
I've only wintered doubles in one year, so, and this is my 5th year. I'm not a very good reference, but I've been pretty successful when I don't mess things up.
So are you pretty careful in the spring about watching feed stores and getting feed on them when they need it?
What I usually do is I look them up like late winter, and I give them emergency feeds. You've seen my cover, so I can just plop a brick of fun, and if I find that's necessary, and in spring, once it starts melting, I just put a single gallon sugar water, and it's usually enough. Like by the time they consume the gallon of sugar water, like flowers have started blooming. So I rarely need more than about a chunk this big. So maybe a pound and a half, maybe 2 pounds of fun.
See, that's one of the nice things about wintering indoors. The way it's been working for me is I almost never have a starvation problem. So Russell, that's kind of what I'm contemplating, whether doubles or singles. But I think to start with, because I really don't have that much experience wintering outdoors, only one season, only my first season I wintered outdoors, but I didn't lose any colonies. So that gives me the confidence to know that what I did at least can work, whether or not it will work every year. And that was doubles. So I think I'm going to stick with doubles for now and go back to that. Ian will wrap my knuckles for that. He's always saying, no, you could do singles. And then just go from there. And then maybe I can move into singles in subsequent years once that
Like
starts, if that's successful.
you could like try and winter like one or two as singles, see if how it goes. Like I found that
I will. Baby steps. So I probably will do doubles this first year, and then next year
I found
get a
that
few singles in there to
insulation
see how that works.
plays a huge part.
Yep.
That's why I went overboard with my hive tops.
Yeah, Drain the Swamp, he's talking about the lid has to be high R value, and that's correct. In the recipe that I used, my only year I wintered outdoors, it was a very high R factor cover on that colony. It was probably, yeah, you're talking 30. I'll bet you it was at least 30 for insulation over top, because it worked really well.
Now,
I'll
did
definitely
you
document it on my
wrap
channel.
your hives, Brad?
I used the Nod Bee Cozy is all I used that year. And again, my colonies came out strong, and I didn't lose one. They were all first winter queens, so they were in good shape that way.
I wouldn't say you really need to insulate the tops that heavy. Like our outside, it's a 3/4 inch piece of plywood, and then there's those pillow tops. We use the thick pillow top, but it's not giving it a lot of insulation, eh?
Okay.
And mine are
The key.
Sorry. Mine are 3
Well, I was going to say
layers
the
of
key that I used with the cover that I used was it was a quilt box system where it was ventilated. It was full of wood chips with a screen on the bottom, so the hive the hive would ventilate through that, and the moisture and the air would go up through that wood chips and vent out the sides. And above the wood chips, like there was probably 4 or 5 inches of wood chips, and then above that was 2 inches of polystyrene. So it was very well insulated on the top and nicely ventilated for the cluster. And like I say, that really seemed to work nicely.
And the one thing different that we do, like we have an open upper entrance where you don't use that.
Well, that year I did. With that quilt box design, I built an upper entrance into that quilt box that I put on top. So there was a 3/8 by 1 inch entrance in the top, because I just used, like I say, the Bee Cozy. The only other thing I did, I actually talked to a guy at that time. I kind of have lost track of who it was I was talking to, but he was a beekeeper near Edmonton. So also cold, long winter. And the only other thing that we talked about was the bottom entrance. Instead of making it a single small entrance, like you would normally do, he suggested make 2 small entrances. So I did. I made an entrance on each corner of the entrance that was probably the size of my little finger, And so his theory on that is when the hive ventilates and the air goes up, the cold air coming in the bottom doesn't come up right under the cluster. It comes up along the sides like that. So that was his theory on how that worked. And, I can't say it made a big difference, but it certainly didn't cause my colonies to die.
Our bottom entrances are usually under snow, so you don't get a lot of ventilation coming in through them. But with the upper
Yeah, mine
entrance,
were covered too. Yeah, but they'd melted that out, so there
you get
was
some through
an
them.
air gap. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But
like I
like this,
say, I don't know what the key points are there, but that whole recipe seemed to work okay.
like this
Thank
winter
you.
when we got those warm spells, we had yellow snow all over the place because they could get out that top entrance, not the
Right.
bottom. Eh?
Yeah.
Thank you,
yeah.
Woody's honey. He says, hey guys, what did I miss? I just saved a swarm of bees off a barge on the Mississippi. Talk about an experience.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Cool.
Crazy. Nice.
So that'll be my big excitement for things to learn this year. The thing that's going to slow me down with those plans is being able to put together the equipment, because I had 11 colonies my first year, and now I have, I might have 120, 130 going into winter. So it's a little different scale.
Well, I use the Bee Cozy blankets too, and like I've been very satisfied with them. They do a good job.
Yeah, I probably won't use them only because I'm running a 2-way pallet. So probably just run I don't know, inch or two of polystyrene around the whole pair of colonies on that pallet. I think that's the way I'll go.
Held by a strap.
Maybe a donut that goes around the whole thing that slides down kind of outside.
I've used that on my first year. I made boxes that fold flat. But the thing is, sun eats at them pretty quick.
Yeah, it does. There's one of a guy in our bee club. He has a source in town here for it's kind of like that stretch wrap stuff I use, but it's black. So he uses that, and I think it kind of protects the polystyrene. You can paint that polystyrene too. You can, especially if you have a sprayer, you can paint the polystyrene and protect it from the sun.
And use tape to block the seams.
Yeah, there's a lot of tape. It's expensive.
Yeah. So I don't know. Well, maybe if you use a strap to hold them tight together, it'll prevent air from leaking through.
Or screw up to the box. I may just do that.
We bought another pallet of styrofoam hives this year. And that's what we do. We paint them, Brad. Yeah. I've got 48 hives in the 1 yard. This year, half of them are going to be double in styrofoam. Half of them will be single. So we'll give it a real test this year.
Yeah. See, that I would do, right? Except I don't know how many years I'm going to be doing this yet. I'm getting kind of old. But
you're telling that to Doug.
Yeah,
I'd have to. Oh, come on.
Old.
Doug's not much older than me.
Yeah, quarter
You're only
century.
as old as you feel. You're only as old as you feel, and I think I feel a lot older than I am. And I think Doug feels like he's like, I've seen him wearing it, driving his sled. He definitely feels younger than I feel.
Brad, if I got up in the morning and didn't hurt, I would think I was dead.
Dude, you're preaching to the choir, man. Every year, my annual physical, my doctor asks me a whole bunch of questions. One of them is, "You got any aches and pains and things that hurt?" And I just I'll tell you what doesn't hurt. It's a shorter list, right? Everything hurts. But anyway, so I was going to say that, I really appreciate your input on those polys, because one of the biggest things is I'd have to, well, I wouldn't have to, but I'd have to modify my two-way pallets in order to do that.
Yeah.
But I think I could do it. I think I can just put a fur strip on the outside of each pallet to make it a little wider, and then concoct a different kind of clip for it.
You don't have
Well,
to
I don't
replace
use
the whole
that.
apiary with the foams too. Just your bottom brood chamber, if you or two, if you want to winter in
Well, I
double.
wouldn't use them for honey supers.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Just brood chambers.
Just
And
for
use your
just
wooden boxes for honey supers.
what you see, Doug?
I just made the pallet like you did, only I made the shims the same width as the styrofoam hives. And I don't use a clip because we never move them, so don't really need a clip on them.
Oh, so they just sit there. Yeah, that's a good point. If you don't move them around,
You don't.
wow, that's a really good point. I mean, if anything, you could just drive a screw to give it a little bit of stability in the corner.
The bees will stick them down.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's a really good point. And that's the whole idea. And see, I think I would move mine a bit, and this is part of the plan that I haven't quite figured out, is that in the fall, I can easily move them. And I would move them you'd have to have a pretty good understanding of my yard layout to know what I'm talking about. But I would move them from the apiary that I have just a little ways to a tree row. And I'd line them up in that tree row so that they get a good snowbank cover. In the fall, that would be easy. But in the spring, they would start flying a lot earlier than I could actually get in there to move them back.
Yeah.
So,
well, could look on Google Maps, see what your apiary
might be
looks like.
complicated.
Look
Well,
Can you hear me?
Hey,
Yeah.
Lee.
Hey, Lee.
better late than never.
I've been fighting Google Chrome. It said it had an update, so I clicked update, or it was kind of automatic update, and I told it to continue, and it wouldn't recognize camera systems, audio, nothing. I couldn't even get in the studio.
So suffice it to say that's kind of just my, but I'm sure I could work that out if I really wanted to do it. So there would be a little bit of a move, but it would only be 150 feet from the tree row to the open apiary. Because my apiary, it's wide open. It doesn't get more than 8 inches of snow all winter. It doesn't matter.
I guess that's the other thing. Your sheltered yard. Would you be able to get into it? Late March, early April.
Well, I don't know. I might have to take my tractor down.
Yeah.
Make a road.
Well, I've had to blow into ours every now and then.
But so are you just checking feed stores? Is that why you're going in there?
Yeah. Going in to put feed on.
So I really want a hands-off system. I don't want to have to do a whole lot of that. My winters are still pretty busy with the wood shop.
I think I found your apiary. Like, is the woods southwards? Like I see a small section of woodland, and it's south on the map. So is that where you would put your bees on winter?
If you're looking at a stand of bush, that's to the west of my apiary.
West.
There's just a row of spruce trees that I'm talking about. It's to the north of my apiary.
Okay, I think I see it. It's on Road 89, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Google Map. I see the row of spruce you're talking about. It's a bit blurry, but yeah.
So what's going on in Leland up there?
Rain and more rain, then heat. I think that last storm we had come through, I think it blew all of our tallow tassels out.
So you're done for the year then?
It's looking that way, unless by miracle something pops back out within the next week. But I went out there and looked.
A good deal of honey, right?
About 700, a little over. But I went out there, I think it was Sunday, cutting some grass, and every tallow I seen, it had just a little bitty short tassel left on it, and anything that had grown out, it just got blown off. But with the heat getting as high as it is now, those little short ones, I don't think they're going to develop into anything.
Let's see. Jared's saying it's been a tough year for his bees up there, for his honey.
The only thing that I did yesterday, I tried something out, and I think I just may have got some cheap stuff or whatever. But they was talking about on a stream last week, I believe it was on Ricky's, the little wax sticks to be able to rub on your frames. And somebody said something about putting it in a deodorant container. So I went online and found some clear ones. I poured the hot wax in, everything solidified good, but I think it solidified too good. So when I turned the bottom, it just stripped the little gears off inside. So next time, I think
uses the toilet paper tube.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to heat it quite as hot next time and see if maybe that'll work, but I'm not sure. It looked good though.
You give it enough time, Lee, that beeswax will shrink and probably crack away from the container.
Yeah.
But it could take a year.
Well, I took a pin and shoved in the bottom and I could push it up, but then it was just stripping the gears in it. But it could have been the cheap container that I bought too.
David said he had a high of 60 today. It was like 83, 84 here today.
See, it's almost 820 here, and we're still showing 86 with the index of 92.
There's Brian. Hey, Brian. From Flower Street.
I think Sunday morning when I got up, it was +3 here.
+3?
Yeah.
Wow.
And does your honey flow start right around the solstice too, Doug?
I think our sweet clover is about a week away starting right now.
Let's see. Trying to catch up with these comments here.
Russell Koopman had a good idea there as far as these little containers. Use the spray like whenever you making candles, the quick release or whatever.
Right.
Maybe I can spray some of that in there, and that'll keep it from solidifying on the actual threads in there.
Link Kilby says it's 57 in Newfoundland. I can't say it.
Newfoundland.
Newfoundland.
They use the heat gun to melt the end of the wax stick.
What was that?
David Hughes says use the heat gun to melt the end of the wax stick.
I was going to say, you know very well you're not going to melt that wax out of there without destroying that container.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I thought they were nice because, let's see, here's the empty one. It comes off, has the little lid on the end of it.
Sure.
Yeah, I can't even pop that off now. It's just been one of them days for me.
Hey, Brian.
You know, good old Sam over there, he just uses an ice cube tray and makes little wax ice cubes.
Comes with kind of like a little concave lid that'll go on, it snaps in. That way, when you fill it up, it starts off with that little rounded top for you. Then you screw this on to hold it in place. And you fill it from the bottom while it's inverted. After that, then you snap the clear bottom onto it and it seals it.
Wow.
But if I can try that mold release, that might help on the next one because I've got a couple.
Well, Bob, I did use some toilet paper tubes for that, and it worked. Well, I mean, the toilet paper tube thing did work to make a giant wax crayon. I don't use that. It sits in my apiary camper now. I just have too many frames to wax to kind of do it that way.
That's with it pushed up there. So I mean, it did come out good.
Oh,
It's just getting it to thread right and see if that works. Maybe on the next one work better. But y'all had a good day.
Yeah, it was kind of busy out there. I tried to get out early, so by the time I'm sweat through, it's not too late in the day. But yeah, I just was equalizing. So Charlie,
Yeah.
you do a lot of equalizing. Have you noticed any difference, any problems when you take a frame of brooding bees from one colony and drop it into another one to equalize, or you shake all the bees?
When I'm equalizing, I'm doing two things. Number one, I'm keeping the one hive that's got so much brood in there ready to swarm. It'll be ready to swarm when they come hatching out. And then I got another hive over here that's not quite up to speed, and I'm giving them a little extra brood to kind of push them along, you know.
Right,
So,
but do you notice a lot of fighting with the bees, or you do something in between? Do you spray them down, or what do you do?
I can shake the bees off.
What if you need the
just
bee
moving
power as
brood.
well?
You're not moving bees.
Let me see.
I just did it today or this evening where I had a hive that the virgin queen didn't work out. So I went over and found a couple frames of brood / eggs, and I shook the bees off, and both hives had enough bees in each one of them. And I put those brood frames with eggs in that hive that needs to make their own queen. And I took their empties from over here that were relatively empty because they were queenless and threw them in the other hive. So now that queen over there has a place to lay. Continue on laying, and that way, you know, she doesn't run out of space and she won't swarm.
But you're not actually moving bees with the brood. You're just moving brood.
Usually, I can't find the queen. Now today, I found the queen. Where the one was queen, right? But
There's
yeah.
a cat here.
Wink
Crawling
it.
around my apiary. I
And
look up and there's a cat on my screen.
so, yeah, I don't worry about. I shake the bees off usually.
I always kind of wonder that, if a guy.
But on the other hand,
you
if
know,
it's a
you
nurse
find
bee,
your queen and then you move a frame of bees and brood. I just wonder, you put that in a different colony. I just wonder if there's any risk to the queen at all or anything.
I don't know.
And I'll tell
I
you
mean-
why I would want to do that is because in the spring here, in May, for example, we still get some pretty cold nights, as Doug was pointing out. And if I've got a smaller colony and I say, well, I want to boost that, if I take a frame of brood from a colony, shake all the bees off and move it over, they might not have the bee power to really be able to keep that warm. And I would love to move that frame of brood with the adherent bees to the other colony. But is that a wise thing to do? What do you say, Doug? Is that a wise thing to do at all?
Well, we move bees quite regular with brood frames and never noticed any problems with it.
No problem. So do you take any precautions, like let's put it on the outside, or you just put it right
Yeah,
there?
I won't put it right next to it. Usually there'll be a frame in between, but they're usually young nurse bees on the frames too. They're not the
Pretty
not the ones that
agreeable.
are- Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
and then
Yeah.
if you could find a frame that has a brood that's just starting to emerge already, they don't have to worry about keeping that warm. So they'll be emerging on their own. They're basically fully developed.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, when we move, it's like you said, Brad, we're worried about, if you got a weak hive, a cold night, you could lose the brood if you didn't have the bees to go with it.
Yeah.
I think
There's-
Bob Penny just says
When
that.
I'm doing that, I'm not just equalizing. I'm actually trying to help somebody that's just struggling because the weather is kind of cold.
Yeah.
I think Bob Benny says he sprays them down with some sugar water, and then they're all sisters by the time they clean each other up.
Yeah.
Yeah, either that or use some What is it? Mint or?
Oh, I know Sam, when he sprays, he puts a little bit of vanilla in there too.
There you go.
I might be doing that tomorrow. Some of the nukes that I transferred were queenless, and so I actually picked up 5 smaller nukes today with laying queens, and so I'm going to try to salvage those so-called queenless ones with these 5. So I think I'm going to take my sugar syrup that's laden with Pro Health and spray everybody down real good, just as an insurance policy.
When we move them,
So I don't know.
we usually have an empty box above the brood hives. Move a couple of frames of brood up there, queen excluder. Nurse bees come up on the brood, and those are the ones we move.
Matt had a question.
Right.
Yeah. Matt Lamorrison.
Oh yeah, you can.
That one.
Yeah, made it.
Nurse bees, no problem. I'd take a Pro Nuke and shake as many nurse. You just shake frames, and the old bees or the flyers will fly out, and the rest of them will stay right in the Pro Nuke. What I usually do is I put a bottom board or something and lean it up against the bottom board that I have, and then I'll shake the bees, the nurse bees, onto that bottom board, and then they just walk up in. The ones that can't fly, the ones that can fly go home. Typically, it's not a problem.
Either or.
Let me ask you, Doug, while I got you here, you know, a lot more experience than I am. So this problem I'm trying to fix. So I have a nuke. It's a pretty decent nuke. It was a 5-frame nuke that I put in a 10-frame box now, and there's no queen, and it's maybe getting close to the end of its sealed brood era, you know, so really needs to be dealt with. So can I take that and take a little nuke that I have, and I haven't really looked in these yet, so I don't know how strong it is, but it's got a nice laying queen and everything. Can I take that and just kind of merge those two together, or what's my method there?
I'd probably shake them out in front of that box, let them move in with her.
So shake out the original queenless nuke.
Yeah.
Put the replacement nuke in that, like shake that out, put the new nuke in that spot, and then shake out the queenless portion on the ground. Yeah. I have done that to boost a colony, and it seems that when they walk in the front door, they kind of wipe their feet and mind their manners, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of weird how that works, isn't it? They just sort of get a different attitude when they got to come in the front door.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Get the smackdown put on them. Yeah.
I'll take some little sticks because they got to climb up onto my pallet, so I have to put a little stick there. It's crazy how they do that. They know where that stick is right away. They go find the end of the stick, and away they go.
Yeah, it's quite a march.
I love watching the march, yes.
Washboarding is also pretty...
Well, that's a good method. I like, because I've done that. So, yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll just take those nukes right out of there and put the new nuke in and shake them on the ground.
We used to blow our bees when we were harvesting. You'd really get a march then.
Mm. Yeah, I did that last summer. Actually, I was sitting here and I didn't know what to do, and Bob gave me the answer. And I kind of had done this in the past, but I was just drawing a blank.
This Bob, not Bob Benny. It was this Bob.
Yeah, this Bob right here. And it was a few nukes that there was maybe, I don't know, 6 or 8 nukes that I had, you know, when I moved them into my building so that I can, you know, rehome them. So then move them back out, put them in the apiary. Well, I didn't leave them in long enough. So when I moved them back out, they depopulated. And I ended up with these queens wandering around there with, you know, 25 bees in this nuke. And I said, I don't know what to do. And Bob said, just get some nurse bees, shake them on the ground. And sure enough, Boy, that's exactly what I did. And it worked perfectly. Shake them on the ground and they just march right in there and take up residence and start working for that queen.
Well, who was it that said he did $5,000 worth of bulk bees all over the ground?
That was Randy Oliver.
Randy Oliver.
He took his son's money and he bought, I forget what it was, 5 or 10,000. He bought a whole bunch of bulk bees and got them home and shook them all out in the ground. The boys just about hung him. What in the world are you doing? But it was a whole line of hives that they'd set up, and they put because they had queens left over. They didn't know what to do with these queens, so he went and bought all these bees, and he just put a caged mated queen in each box, all down the line, and he shook bees on the ground the whole way down, and he said it was just a river, all of these bees going into these hives and taking up residence. He said, boy, it worked perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah, it gives them a whole new attitude.
Yeah. That's on the MBA YouTube channel, that presentation that Randy did.
Let's see. If they don't sting. Joey asking what lure I used on my swarm trap for my swarm I got today. That one.
the only swarm lure.
It was not a big swarm at all. Matter of fact, I only had 3 frames in that box, and there was not that many bees even in there. And I never saw a queen even on that. So I just did the same thing. I have one colony I know is queenless out there. It's a nuke. And I just set a nuke bottom board up against the entrance, shook them out right on it, and just let them walk up into it. There's a little bit of, the security guards at the door were kind of having a fit with them for a minute, but then they just walked in.
They check your pockets on the way in and make sure you're not carrying any weapons, I guess.
Yeah, they had to go through the metal detectors for sure to get in, but they made it.
Yeah.
So it's that tree. It's the gift that keeps on giving. That's like the 5th swarm in. Well, it's been less than a year, a calendar year, but 5th swarm.
I keep going to the same one. I got a tree like that too. I can tell
this
if I had a swarm. I just have to look at the one tree.
I can actually see the bees coming out of the hole in the tree, right? It's a bee tree, and they just keeps casting swarms off. So,
I see.
So I already got
literally it keeps giving.
Yeah, so I got 2 that have come out of the trees in that neighborhood, and then I had 2 in the tree, right there near where I had the swarm trap earlier the year. So I just left my swarm trap hanging on the guy's post there, and then he called me. He's like, "Oh, got bees in the box." I'm like, "All right, I'll be over." Went over and collected the box, and tomorrow or the next day I'll go and drop the trap back there. Let me see. But yeah, it's definitely casting off a lot of bees. They just keep filling their cavity with honey and brood, and then they cast off a swarm.
I'm about to say, the smaller that cavity is in that tree, the quicker they're going to swarm out too.
Yeah, it's a huge swarm. It's a huge tree, so I don't know what they got going on in there, but But if it did have a queen, and the queen was able to walk in with her bees in the front door of this other one, now I've got a queen in that colony that I didn't have a queen in it, and she's got a lot more bee power. So, or they could have just balled her, and I'm still queenless in there. So I don't know.
Yeah, go out there in 2 or 3 more days and see if you see some eggs in it.
Check it out. Yep.
If not, grab you a frame of eggs out of another hive and drop in.
Look at. There you go. I'm glad you like it.
Awesome.
I haven't been pushing it too much, but It does work. I haven't, because it's kind of a pain in the behind for me to bottle up, right? So I haven't. I've got about, I don't know, 70 bottles bottled up, but I haven't been pushing it to like Dancing Bee and places like that because I don't want to have to bottle it up.
Poor Bob.
You still using your little bottling machine, or are you doing it by hand?
Oh, well, he's talking about the honey rustler that you use on the fume board, right?
Okay.
So, but yeah, I still use the bottling machine for lure. It works great. How long does it? You probably need to rebait every 2.5, 3 weeks. You know, when you go check the box, I would spray some more in there and re-up it. Now, I only baited that one once, but it had old comb and stuff in it too, and it's been a couple months since I did that one, but it was probably pretty weak if they could smell it at all anymore.
Yeah, but you got a hive or a box there that's got bee smell to it too.
Yeah, so, well, that one had already cast off 2 swarms by the time I even put it out there. So I knew it was going to be a while before it caught anything. But, yeah, the honey rustler does pretty good. Especially people have said that they've had better luck when they, like, put the fume board on. They tilt it to allow the air to blow through the corners and stuff. And that seems to work better that way. But it's pretty good stuff. Let's see. Brian signed up for 5 more events this week and found out that a lot of scammers out there. Yep. I'm coming around to the shows. I just don't know how dedicated I am to sitting out in the heat for 6-7 hours at a time. Even though, $500 is $500, so might have to be doing more.
It's better than under a trailer sucking bees out.
Oh yeah, getting stung 200 times. Yeah, I kind of gave up on cutouts unless it's somebody I know or something like that. It's not my deal.
I'm not doing no more of them. Now, if somebody calls and got a swarm in a tree, I can just walk up to, or maybe use a little step ladder. I'll do that. But,
Right.
try to stay out of the truck for now on.
Well, the cutouts, it's easy to get out of. Well, I'm not licensed and bonded to do any construction work on your home, right? Oh, okay. No problem. You got anybody you can recommend? Yeah, sure. I give them somebody to call. Not a problem.
That was something that
you've done 37 cutouts this year so far.
Something that Tom Mosatter was talking about. You walk into somebody's $500,000 house, and let's say you happen to catch it on fire. Man, you're SOL. You don't have insurance.
That was one thing I did make sure of, though. Whenever I would do a cutout or anything, I would always have a small fire extinguisher with me. That way, if I was puffing smoke and it was starting to burn down to the bottom and any embers come out, that I could hopefully take care of that. Keep the little fire extinguisher and a bottle of water.
Well, Jared, I don't know what your temperatures are like up there, but when it's 90-something degrees outside, I'm not going out in the heat and stand there and damn them bees. I'll get them in the winter, or I'll get them some other time, but it's too hot. Oh, so see, he's got the insurance. So there you go. So hopefully they're paying you. Most people down here think, oh, you're a beekeeper. You're just going to come get these bees and it's going to be all lovely because you need bees. I don't need bees.
Yeah, and they think it's free.
Yeah, they think it's free. And then when you drop, well, I'll come out and take a look at it. And then you're like, well, I can do it. It's probably going to cost you about, $1,200. Oh, really? Well, yeah. What do you think? This is construction working.
Well, it's either that or they're going to spray them, then everything's going to die inside the wall. You're going to get roaches.
Well, what I find is most of the time they've already tried spraying and killing them before they ever call you. So now you've got pesticide issues, right? It's like,
That's one thing I would look at when I'd go do one. I'd look at the entrance and see if I could see any residue of anything that's been sprayed on there. And if it was, I wouldn't even mess with it. But if they think if they spray on that, they're going to take care of the problem, but all that in the wall is going to end up coming through your wall. You're still going to have to get somebody to come in there and tear more of the wall out now, possibly your carpet or wood floor. And it's going to end up costing you more in the long run.
I'd be the guy that accidentally cut the electrical wire.
I know one thing. If I was doing, and you're going to use smoke in a house, I'd be having one of them vaporizer smokers.
Yeah. If I was doing it on the inside, yeah, I'd have a vaporizer or whatever. But outside, I would just use my regular smoker.
Your Rodney says exactly. Most of the time, they've tried to kill them with some pesticide before you ever come over there.
I think I've spoke of this earlier in another stream, but a guy called me and he said he had bees in the ground. Like, bees usually don't nest in the ground, but even if
honeybees don't nest in the ground.
I'd got one call for that before in the ground, but it was an older couple that called me, and I said, well, I'm going to go check it anyway. It was about an hour and 15-minute drive, and it was yellow jackets. So I just asked him, I said, how far is your nearest dollar store? So I run down, grabbed a couple of cheap bottles of soap, put it in a 5-gallon bucket and put water in it, mixed it up real good and poured it down the hole.
$500 for your time and suffering.
Nah, I didn't even charge them. It was an old couple. They was worried about the kids,
exactly how I am.
Grandkids and great-grandkids getting stung.
There's Jared. I ain't seen Jared in a while. Hey, Jared.
Jared in quite a while.
Good to see you.
Good to see you guys.
I can tell you're not law enforcement anymore because you got a full-on beard going on.
Oh no, I'm still law enforcement. I just different agency now. They allow the beard.
Oh, that's cool. My wife made me cut mine because of the grandbaby. She said, "You're gonna scratch them all up." It's like, all right, I'll shave it off.
Yeah, I've kind of gone prone to it. The only thing I don't like is the bees don't like it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Man, they touch it and they light me up.
They get stuck in it too, and they always try to get me on the back of my head right here on the hair.
Yeah, but man, I tell you, the cutouts though, that's my cup of tea, man. I love those.
Well, if you can make money doing it, if you find people think that you're just going to come out and remove them for free because you're a beekeeper.
I have some. Most of the people know that. Because what it is they reach out to other people and pest control companies and stuff, and they won't kill the bees. They're like, you need to get in touch with the beekeeper. So
right.
I just did one today. I had to go through plaster and lath to go through, and I went and removed the colony and then repaired it for her.
Well, you got money on both ends, removal and repair.
Yep.
Good.
But yeah, it keeps me going. I think right now with what I have in my books and stuff, I think by the end of next week I'll be sitting at 46 cutouts for this year.
You got bees gone wild. It's like Bee McGinn up there.
Oh,
you're in West Virginia or
Virginia?
Virginia. Okay.
It's crazy. I didn't think it was a big market for it, but it's it's surprisingly. I mean, some days I'll get called 8 or 9 calls in one day.
That's crazy.
Keep that up. You'll be able to quit being the cop then, huh?
You just got to raise your prices now.
Well, see, that's the plan. I've been getting messages here lately. Now some of them I do travel for. I get some people that I'm in Southwest Virginia, so most people know of Richmond, Virginia, which is 3.5 hours away. I think right now I have five cutout calls up for Northern Virginia. So I plan a weekend, and I'll go up there and I'll take a Friday and a Saturday and go knock out 2 bee cutouts a day.
Well, you're got to be close to Earl then. Well, you might be are you in Northwest or Southwest?
No, I'm in Southwest. So I think from Earl, I'm 2 hours and 40 minutes from Earl.
Oh, okay.
Ain't too
Yeah,
bad.
he's more to my east.
I think he's right on the state line, ain't he?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, when I went to
About 40 miles south of Roanoke, Virginia, off 81.
Then we lost Jared.
Yeah, they don't have too much internet service over
Oh.
there. There he is.
Sorry. Yeah. I was going to say, I actually, when back years ago when we went to the bee conference, I actually drove right past the town that Earl was living in.
I haven't heard from Earl in a while. I hope he's all right.
Yeah, I hope so too. I haven't heard from either.
Let's see. So you're not having a good honey year this year?
I mean, I haven't pulled yet. I mean, I've got quite a bit. I mean, when I started right before the cutouts, I raised my own queens back in the end of February. I actually first time actually grafting some queens, and I ended up with I did 40 cups and had 28 of them for the first time ever doing it. So I was able to split pretty good. I think right now I have 24, 25 supers that are ready to pull.
You had a good success on returning mated queens?
Yeah, believe it or not, I actually I had really good. I actually got I drove down in North Carolina to Bee's Knees. He was getting rid of they're not the queen castles, but they're the small, double mini mating nukes.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked up I think it was 60 of them, and put them in there after I grafted them, stuff like that, and actually had I think out of the 20, I gave some of them away to a guy who needed some queens, and I told him I had virgins that they'd have to go get mated, and he was fine with that. But I ended up putting 19 in the splits and stuff, and all but one returned.
Well, that's real good.
Yeah, so it actually helped me out pretty good. I've been building a bunch of 2-way pallets and lids. I picked up a panel saw, so I've been doing that because my hive numbers have grown pretty fast.
Doug, Alex, does your basswood tree, singular, does it have any yellow flowers?
No, it's small white flowers, and they haven't bloomed yet. It's probably a week or two away from blooming. They usually bloom at the end of June.
I've got a basswood tree in the backyard. It has small yellow flowers, and the whole yard is just full of fragrance from it when it flowers.
Very strange. The basswood here, all of those are seen. There's some in the there's a shopping mall near my house, and there's basswoods all around it. And the one near my apiary, all the flowers are white. Probably different species.
Yeah.
Our basswoods are in bloom right now.
What color are your flowers?
We have a mixture. We have some white and some yellow.
So,
But it's soon. They're getting ready. I give them about another week or so. They'll go out, and then our sourwood is going to start.
we don't have sourwood here, unfortunately. I don't think, anyway.
You see, our flow started actually earlier than it did last year. And see, our tulip poplar last year did really good. It was about it lasted about probably 6 weeks, almost 7 weeks. And then this year, we had a really bad rain and windstorm as soon as the tulip poplars opened up. So we only had about 2 weeks of it here.
Yeah, it bloomed here about 2 weeks early, and then here comes all the rain.
Yeah, it was like we had
washed the locusts out, sort of washed. It was on and off when it came to the poplars, but it didn't do it any good. And I went out there and looked around. I don't really see them bringing in any more stuff. I think it's pretty much over here.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the people that we were talking to, there's a couple of master beekeepers around my area and stuff like that. They do a lot of their science stuff, with their scales and everything like that. And it was right as the tulip poplar flow hit. I mean, it was packing on the weight, and then 2 weeks later showed the charts and everything, and it completely just came to an abrupt stop. So they're more worried about the the weather here in the fall, just because we haven't really had a hard winter down here. So they're afraid that it's going to be a pretty lengthy dearth that we're going to have, because I mean, I had bees flying out. I think we only had 2 weeks of actual cold weather that hit January this past year. But I mean, shoot, Christmas Day down here, it was 65 degrees. It's like, it was the first time ever in the going on 7 years I've been beekeeping, I've never opened up a hive on Christmas Day, but I did it last year.
Yeah. So you got all them hives behind your house up there?
So I actually, yeah, you've been to my house, Charlie. So I had to split it up actually, because yes, and when I had that real bad robbing situation, so I have 18 on one side, and then further across my property, I have another 17, and then I got the rest of them on the front half of my property. So I got them on like the corners of my property, and I have 5 acres, so it's on the corners of all of it.
So you kind of got it down in your front pasture field, you might say.
Yep.
Sort of.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, I had to put some down there, and that's where I'm taking all my cutouts now that I do. I get, it's actually pretty good because I can go down there, dump the bees out, and then right where the creek is where they can get water, I put the tote of the comb of some of the honey that I let them go and rob out. I try not to take as much. Well, this year I haven't taken actually any honey from any of the cutouts. I just set it out in the tote, away from the bees, and they go and rob it out, because I was like, I'll get it back. I just got, it's funny that we talk about the cutouts, just because sometimes they can be discouraging. I just did one that I did a removal in a ceiling, because they didn't want to go through it was underneath the floor joists, or in between the floor joists of a house, and they didn't want to, it was carpet up top. They didn't want to pull out the carpet, or have me pull back the carpet to do it. So they wanted me to just cut the ceiling, because it's easier to repair drywall. So they said, oh, the hive's only been there for a little bit. So I go and I do my thermal on the ceiling, and it's giving me a 7.5 foot long heat signature in the ceiling. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This is just going to be great. It's an abandoned house. So I was like, okay. So, or they're remodeling the house. So I go over there and I open up the ceiling, the 7 foot long of drywall, and I look up and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh man. So I cut, one little piece of comb, pop my flashlight in there, or actually I had a bore scope. I put my bore scope through the top, and it went another 2 foot. So it was 9 foot long in the ceiling. And you talk about a honey shower. It took me 7 hours to remove it all. I found the queen, but I probably removed every bit of about 130 pounds of honey came out of that ceiling.
Dang.
I mean, I was drenched. I had 2 27-gallon totes that was full of comb. One completely just full of brood, and the other one just completely full of honey.
That's insane.
Now you try to take that brood and put it in frames, Jarrett?
Yeah, most of the time, I've from talking with Randy and stuff like that, most of the time what I do is I catch the queen and I put her in the cage. But when they're that big and there's so many bees, I try to put some of the brood into the rubber bands, because it helps with the pheromone and the smell. Gives the bees something to work. And then when I put that queen in there, it does really well. And they do great rubber banding it in. I've only had one hive this year that they didn't get the memo, and they started putting some cross comb in between the frames.
Right.
But most of the time it does. They do really good. And if I can I try to at least get enough comb to, like, I have that like a kind of what Mr. Ed has. It's like a little, I don't even know. It's not particle board, but it's a board. It's a hard board, basically, that I cut to the inside dimensions of a deep frame, so that I can just hold it up there, line up where I'm going to cut the comb. So all I got to do is put it in the tote, and then when I get home, I just rubber band it and then pop them in there.
Yeah, basically like a masonite board or something thin and light.
Yeah. Yep. It's something that's light, that if I cut it, if I hit it with the knife or whatever, it's not going to do it. And it's got a material on it that I can just wipe it down if it gets honey on it.
Well, much respect to you, man, because I wouldn't do that.
So do you have one of those easy yellow vacuum cleaners, or did you make something yourself?
So I actually, I have two vacuums that I use. I do have the yellow vacuum. It does really good, but I modified. My father-in-law helped me. I modified a medium box to have the vacuum that you just put over a deep.
Right.
So it has like the PVC through it and has a screen with it. It's kind of like the similar setup to Randy's and Mr. Ed's vacuum that they have, like the brown boxes. Mine has the full screen on the inside, so you can just take it off, and the bees have
Like
the ventilation.
Colorado BVAC type deal.
Yeah, just like that. Most of the time I can get away, but I actually broke it down and I went with Uline, and I actually ordered the same exact bucket, the 7-gallon bucket. The RV sewage output is what the gate valve is, and I actually built my own holding buckets, and all I use is the same vacuum head. So I think I have 5 buckets I can use for swarm removals. They got the wire and everything on the inside, and that only cost me $120 to make 5 extra vacuums.
Just use the same head, move it from each bucket over.
Yep. Yeah, because the good thing is most of the time when I'm doing the bee removals, a lot of people, they have the electricity, and if they don't, the vacuum lasts. If you're using it, on the I say like a medium speed, it can last for 6 hours with the vacuum. But what I do is if they don't have electricity, I have a inverter box in my truck. I just leave my truck running, and I'll run extension cords out, and I'll just charge my vacuum while I'm using it.
Okay. I know as far as the everything BVAC, I've enjoyed it when I had used it. I've done 2 removals in a day, and then on the way home from the second, when my mom had gotten a wreck, so I didn't have time to get home and get the bees, unload into a hive. I just had to throw the bucket inside the house, left it on low running all evening long. Got home that night and it was still running, circulating air on them.
Yep. I've had a couple down here when we had that, like I was still doing cutouts, because you can do the cutouts in the rain, because I'm doing it from the inside. I actually will, I'll take my sunroom and I'll just put the bee vacuum in there, lay it on its side so the vent hole's, facing up and then out, and I'll just plug it up to the wall, and I've had to leave bees in the vacuum for 2 days and they did fine. It's the same process of even like what Randy does, like when we do the cutouts, you just seal the bees up when you dump them in there anyways.
I know the last time I used my everything BVAC, I actually had to bring it to work. We had bees on the security gate. So I got there at 6 o'clock that morning, vacuumed all the bees up, and then put my vac in the office in one of the bathrooms. They just put a out of order sign on the door, and I left it running for 12 hours. And it lasted all day, and that was just straight on battery. That wasn't plugging it in. Now,
awesome.
Granted, that was on low, just enough to circulate air.
Right.
But it lasts quite a while.
It's surprising. I've had to actually, I did a job that I was doing like some through some drywall, and it was very big and stuff like that. But the bees filled up the vacuum, so I had to switch the vacuum over. And when I did that, though, the motor ended up sucking. The screen broke on the bottom of the head of the vacuum, so I had to actually take it. Which that's the only complaint, if I had to say anything, is when you have to clean that thing, it's the most difficult thing to clean, just because when you get honey in there, or you get so much of that drywall dust, it just packs it in there in that little motor. So you have to, and I couldn't change the screen on the bottom. I had to take the complete vacuum apart just to change the screen out.
Hey. I hadn't had to do mine yet, but I hadn't been vacuuming up sheetrock and all that. Basically, I just cut in from the outside and vacuumed the bees.
Yeah, most of the people, I've had to do one this year that I've gone from the outside, but most of the ones I go from the inside.
Lee, you still on 12s?
Yep, unfortunately. Be on 12s until further notice.
So what are you working the weekends, Jarrett? Mostly with your bee vacuum? Or
No, actually, so like I'm on night shift, so and that was by my choice. So what I'll do is I'll go and work. We only work 10, so I'll go and, like, I was off these 2 days, so I have a bee cutout tomorrow. I'll go and knock that out in the morning. Then I'll go to work tomorrow night, and then when I get off, I'll go do another cutout, come back home, and then I'll rest, go into work Thursday night, and then get off Friday morning, do another cutout.
mm-hmm.
Get you wore down quick.
Yeah. The good thing about it that is like I'm kind of dual purpose in it. You know, at my job, you know, where I work at a college. So right now, as the kids, like the summer vacation they don't have classes up there at the college. So when I'm at work, we have a full kitchen and stuff like that. So I'll bring my pot and my totes full of comb, and I'll just render comb all night.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
No, I think just from rendered comb this year, I think I have enough comb right now. Some that's rendered, some that's not, still in some totes. But I have almost 40 pounds of rendered wax.
That save you a lot of money for re-waxing new frames.
Yes.
Well, you figure at $10 a pound, I mean, that's $400 right there.
Mm-hmm.
And most places are going to charge you $10 a pound plus shipping and all that. So,
yeah.
Whenever I first started, I had a couple of hives that had some wax moth damage, and I just scraped it off on the ground. Didn't think nothing of it. Well, this last time, whenever I had wax moth, I rendered it down, and I got a nice little block out of it. So I said, I don't care how dirty it is. I'm going to render it myself and get it clean.
Now, did yours come out dark?
Little bit. Let me grab one right here.
Yeah, I'm going to grab mine too. Hold on, I'll grab my puck.
I like how I rendered it. I went and bought it.
I'm not really going to say dark, but it ain't white. But it wouldn't, I mean, just fresh capping wax either. But I think it come out pretty decent.
Yeah, you want to? This is crazy. That big cutout I was telling you that I got all that honey and stuff like that. I've never seen the wax come out this dark. But this is actually, let me get to some light. This is actually the color of the wax.
Dang. Now, how many times did you render that?
I've only done the first render. It's still,
okay.
It's still.
Cause I was about to say
dirty,
that one there, it did come out a little bit darker the first time, but then I re-rendered it again and it come out a lot cleaner.
Doesn't solar melting help with color as well? Like if it's an option you have?
It probably would, because I mean, when you re-rendered in a pot, basically every time you render it, you got more of that trash that's going to float out of it.
Yeah, I have my solar.
My solar melter is beautiful, and it ain't beautiful when it goes in. So I think that's a good point, Alex.
Yeah, mine. It's the size of a deep box. I have a glass lid on it, solar wax melter. I've actually melted like brand new. Once the bees, rob out the honey, it wasn't white. It was just like a faint yellow, but it comes out, the wax comes out with it's almost white, but it's just like a hue of yellow, but it comes out beautiful in the solar wax melter. Problem is when I'm doing these cutouts, so many of them, I usually put them in like the 5-gallon paint strainer bags, and it goes like over a paint tray. I mean, it fills up. I use like a cake dish to do it, like the actual make the blocks, and I'll fill it up to the brim. And then, it takes a couple of days where it's hotter to do it. So if I got to watch it though, because after the bees rob out the honey from the totes, I have because of the black totes that I use, I have to render it pretty quick, just because if not, it'll start getting, melt down to the actual tote. But they did pretty good. This last one I did. I was actually surprised. I've never seen it before, but I put the tote with the honey and the wax in it, and it was brand new, brand new cutout. And it still had the white wax and everything. They actually not only took the honey, they took the wax too, and actually, I guess, used it, for their hives, because the tote was full, and I have maybe an inch or two of all the chewed up cappings just at the bottom of it.
Lead disappeared too.
Was that lunar wax melter? Was that Robert's outfit?
I guess. I wouldn't expect Lee to get up right in the middle of this conversation and walk out. Yeah, I've been using my solar wax melter as well, and I just put a piece of paper towel in there, right? And it just renders it down really well. Catches all the little crap that's in there, and nice little gold bar of wax when it's done. But the Lee, where'd you go, man?
I was
You're in the middle of having a wax conversation, and poof, you're gone.
I was trying to fix something here.
The
Technical difficulties this evening.
well, I mean, it is after 10, so we've gone. Well, I've gone 2 hours. You've gone like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But who do we got next? We got Charlie on Friday night. We got Ricky on Thursday night.
Ricky, I believe, left either yesterday or today, I think, going to Mexico for like 3 weeks.
So no Ricky.
But
tonight.
most likely, don't quote me on it, but I believe we're still going to run a stream on his channel with Via Honeybees, Tom and Melissa, and Spanky.
Okay.
So if we do that, that'll be on Thursday night, 8 Eastern and 7 Central. And then Charlie on Friday and Gunline on Sunday.
Sounds like a plan. Well, guys, let's make it a wrap for this evening. And looking forward to seeing you guys on the next live stream.
Y'all have a good one.
Have a good
It was
night.
good seeing y'all.
Good
See
night,
everybody.
Night.